Welcome to another episode of Stockport Referee Society's Behind the Whistle. In our latest episode, we are delighted to be joined by Hassan Rajwani, the co-founder and creator of REFSIX, the app for referees. Very much for joining us, Hassan. And I suppose the best place to start is the very beginning. So, REFSIX is technology used by a large number of referees. How did you come about creating the app?
Well, firstly, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a really good question. So I did my referee course late, 2008, 2009, around that time. And it was when the iPhone came out and the App Store had just been kind of put on like, this is a long time ago when the iPhone was a new thing. Everyone has them now, right? And one of the strangest things I felt was that we were still writing things down on a piece of paper and pen and not using some form of technology. So for my degree, I actually built a prototype of an app that referees could use on their phone. And then basically I kind of just did it for my dissertation and kind of left it to the side. I thought it was a good idea, but I didn't think that referees would run around with their phone and use their phone. And then a few years later, quite a few years later, the Apple Watch came out. And that's when all of a sudden I thought, okay, well, if these big technology companies are starting to make these great smartwatches that are basically a phone on your wrist, maybe there's an opportunity to take that iPhone app that I'd built and put it onto a watch, and we played around with it and thought, okay, this can work. And that's where it really started. So it was kind of 2015, 2016 was when we actually really put some effort behind creating a product for referees. And initially it was just for administrational purposes, right? To record yellow card, red cards initially, and then goals and substitutions. But then the watches all came with GPS sensors and heart rate sensors. And we started to think about, okay, how could we use these sensors to also provide more features to the referee? So now obviously we can track how far you're running in a game, the positioning of the referee on the pitch via a heat map, heart rates, what is trying to get what heart rate, etc. So now we're kind of using the technology, the watch technology, to actually provide even more features than we even ever thought possible at the start.
You touched upon the idea of how the phone and the Apple Watch came on, and you touched about trying to make people almost take away from that black book, pen and paper and pencil, which is so associated with referees. And did you find that a difficult barrier to overcome?
I mean, we did, and we still do. There are some referees who prefer to use pen and paper, and that's absolutely fine. What we found is some people are a little bit scared of technology, which people are scared of change, which is fine. But what we found when they've actually been able to, take a watch, whether we've, turned up at a tournament or an RA meeting and given them a watch to play with, they start to see actually it's really easy to use. So yeah, it's a barrier. It's has been a barrier. It still is, but more and more we're kind of seeing referees buying smartwatches for not just refereeing, but their life, right? Going out and training and stuff like that. So it's becoming a lot easier now to for referees to obviously download the app, play around with it, and just see the value that it brings.
And you mentioned some of the features which the app has, and for people maybe watching, considering to go and download and start using the app, what are the main features of RefSix?
Yeah, I'll touch on them, but I'll kind of, maybe the best way is to describe how someone uses it from start to finish in terms of a match, right? So there's me dropping some stuff. So the first thing you do is you open up the phone app and you put in the game that you're about to referee. So team whatever. So let's go. I'm a Newcastle fan. So Newcastle against Southampton, we've got this weekend, right? So I type in Newcastle, Southampton, the competition, the venue. I can put in the team colors if I wish, and then I create the setup of the game. So, okay, it's a 45-minute game. There's 11 aside. How many people on the bench, etc., etc. Right. So I create that game on my phone. Some people do that the day of the game. Some people do that as soon as they get their fixtures appointed to. Right. And then you have a choice whether on match day you want to add the team sheet if you want to. Some people do, some people don't. It's no big deal. And then once they're ready to go, they click on their watch. They can select the match they're about to referee, and then they can start the game. And so on the watch, there's kind of three major buckets of features that I would call them. So the first one is it helps you track time, right? And look after
Mhm.
time. So there's actually no standard way that referees track time in a game. It's not prescribed that you should do it this way or should do it that way. So referees actually, well, what we know is most referees will have two watches. Some will have it counting up, some will have it counting down, some will stop one, stop another. So we basically allow a variety of different watch timing options on the watch. So um, some people like a continuous clock that never stops. Some people like one counting down, one counting up that stops when there's an injury. And we also help record injury time, because if you tap the watch, it will start recording injury time and how much injury time there is. And you can basically choose which type of watches, timers you want on the watch screen. And even in the second half, if you're a referee that prefers it from going from 45 to 90, we have that functionality too. So it's really customizable down to how a referee wants to track the time in the game. So that's timing. The second, like I said, is administration, which is really the core purpose of what we initially kind of designed the app to be, which is, being able to record easily a yellow card, red card, goals, and substitutions. So if you have a team sheet, you click on the yellow card for the team, you select the player that you're going to give the yellow card to, and then it will choose. You can choose the reason that you're giving that yellow card for them. Same with red cards, goals, and subs is basically the same thing. If you didn't have a team sheet, you just put in the number of the player that you're going to do, and then it will handle other things such as if a player's already been given a yellow card, and you give them another yellow card, it will warn you. It will say, "Hey, you need to send them off." So those are the main functions on the administration side. But also a few years ago, and in England mainly, that temporary dismissals or sin bins have come in. So we've added all of the functionality that you need for sin bins into the watch too. So if I give a sin bin, it'll start a timer. It will stop if there's a stoppage, just how it should be. It will roll over to the second half should you need to. All of the thinking behind sin bins is taken out of your hand and putting it all onto the watch. And it will tell you at the end of the 10 minutes, can that player return or can they be subbed? Can they not be subbed? All of it. So that's the administrational side. And then I alluded to the performance stuff. So the GPS and heart rate. So we basically are able to give you a really great sense of your physical performance in the game. How far you run in the game, first half, second half, your positioning on the pitch with a heat map, a sprint map to show you where you sprinted on the pitch, your heart rate, how much walking, running, jogging, sprinting you're doing in a game, tons and tons of physical data that we're tracking on the watch. So those are the main features. And then once you've done your game, you click a button to send it all back to your phone, and you can see all of that information there, your match report, those physical stats, all the events that happen in the game. The phone then becomes your hub of your career. You've basically got all of your results in one place. So if you ever want to go back and look at a specific match, you've got that all on your phone. And then the last major thing that we have in terms of functionality is we have this area called trends, which basically go through all of your previous results and pull out information. So you can see the average number of cards you give in a game, where you give those cards on a pitch, what reasons are you giving your yellow cards for, your average distance, loads and loads of data in the trends area that basically goes through your history and gives you some information about your performance, both from a misconduct perspective, physical perspective, finance perspective, how much you're getting per game, etc. So tons and tons of features that we've added over the last few years.
Yeah, and it's an incredible app. I mean, I know I use it and it's really helpful for my development and also just that basic administration aspect. And technology is so important in sport, especially in football. And you've mentioned it there towards the end of that answer, but how does the app, do you feel, really benefits referees?
So it depends how referees use it, actually. So it's got all of that functionality that I mentioned, but some referees use it very differently. Some use it just for timing and tracking their physical performance. Some use it for just administration. Some use it for everything, right? So I'll touch on some of them. So that from an administrational perspective, it just makes it easier to be able to read stuff after a game. You've got it all there listed out. You don't have to look through your hand scribbled notes to see what you did. It will hopefully stop you making mistakes, right? So if you gave a yellow card to someone and you give them a second yellow, it will stop that, oh, you know, if you've made a mistake, you'll be able to find it, right? So administration is a big benefit. And then from a physical standpoint, is being able to see, is my training actually impacting my physical performance in a game? So what I mean by that is, are my heart rate zones at a level where actually I'm kind of breezing this game, or is my heart rate zone super high? So I know that actually I need to put in a lot more work off the field to get my fitness to a level it needs to be. Distance is a good indicator of your performance in a game, but actually it's not the be all and end all, because if the game's 5-0 at half time, you're almost certainly going to run less in the second half, just because that's the way the teams are playing. So things like your sprints are useful to understand. Okay, again, physically, am I there? Am I dropping off in terms of distance as the second half goes on? So we're basically giving you a lot of the data and insights from your performance that you can then take away and say, okay, looking at this, how I felt after the game, what do I need to do now in terms of training to get better, to make sure the next game is easier for me physically? Loads of different stuff. And then from a heat map perspective, am I getting into the right positions? Am I wide enough during the game? Am I going into the box? Am I just staying in the center circle? All of those things that without tracking, you might think you're getting outside of that center circle, but actually if there's a big red dot in the middle, you might not be. So little things like that are really useful. And then one last thing from me on this is, what I noticed from my games a couple of years ago was I was giving a high proportion of my cards for descent, and probably more so than the average. So that's where I started to look into, okay, is my tolerance level too high, or low? I don't actually know which way around, but do I need to ease off, or have I just been unlucky in my games, etc.? So you can really reflect on your own performance through the data that we're collecting.
And if you come away from the app itself, REFSIX
Yep.
is very much a community. You've got a podcast, you've got a big following on social media. It's also
Yep.
it's a global brand. And how have you found the REFSIX journey since you started it?
Well, what we thought when we started is no one's really talking about referees. No one's really, the only kind of media that's going on around referees is negative. So what we wanted to focus on is more positive aspects of refereeing. So we celebrate big appointments, we celebrate great decisions, we celebrate milestones on all of our social media and stuff like that. We try and give a lot of kind of insights into how to improve as referees. So, we're now started a fitness series where every week we'll post a video that has a specific fitness session that you can go out and do. So yeah, no one was really doing it when we started, and now a lot more people are doing it, which is great. The RA are doing some great stuff on social media. The PGMOL actually have a social media page now, which is fantastic too. But yeah, our aim is, yes, we are a business. We have to generate money to make the business continue and actually make the product better and better. That's the beauty with an app. We don't have to wait 2 years to put a new product out there. We can release new features and new updates every week, every month. But from a community perspective, our aim is to build a better, is to help inspire current referees to achieve what they want to achieve. And then potentially, I don't know if we're doing this too well, but how do we inspire people who are not referees to become referees, right? And kind of show that it is a great way of staying involved in football. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of the stuff that we do on social, and hopefully it continues as strong. And what we've done this year, which is very different, is we started vlogging our matches. So myself and one of the guys who works for us, John, is we're actually recording ourselves on match day, talking about our preparation, talking about how we feel after the game and stuff like that. And that seems to have gone down really well, and people are really enjoying that. So we're going to be trying to do as much kind of content like that as we can throughout the season.
And my final question is, what would you say to any referee who's considering downloading REFSIX?
Well, I would say download it because it's free. You can try it out. If you don't have a smartwatch yet, there's two things you can do. One is you can actually just use the app on the phone. Maybe if you want to use it in a match, but actually it's there for really a demo, so you can try out how it would work if you had a watch. You could use the app actually just to keep a log of your upcoming fixtures, and then you can turn them into results. So even if you don't have a watch, you can use the app. But I would say, speak to a colleague that has it, get them to give you a demo, watch our video on YouTube, sorry, and it's down to you if you wanna try it out. There's when we started, people were skeptical, right? They were like, okay, is the FA going to be happy with this? Are observers going to be happy with this, etc.? But now we're at a point where in the preliminary round of the FA Cup, the very extra preliminary round, the very first round, 1 in 3 referees on the whole round were using our app. So it's not a case now of, oh, will people look down on me for using something different? Because lots and lots of referees out there are using it now, and at different loads of different levels. We've got referees in the National League using it. We've got referees who are just doing their first games using it. Different ages, from 14, 15, 16 year olds all the way up to 50, 60-year-old referees. So um, I would say try it out, give it a go. You can always buy a watch. If you don't like it, you can return it. You've got 14 days. But my biggest advice, if you've just bought a watch, is try it before you go out onto a game. There's so many people would actually go out onto a game and that would be the first time they'd use it, and that baffled me. So I would watch a game on TV and try out how the watch works and get comfortable with it, and then when you go into a game, maybe just use one or two of the features first. Use it for timing and you can see a heat map after the game. Next time, maybe use it for goals. The next game, yellow cards, and work your way into it. Like any new kind of process that you're going to put in place, you want to try it out first and ease your way into it, not go wholeheartedly into it. And that would be my advice. I think 3 or 4 games, and then I don't think you'll ever look back.
A huge thank you to Hassan Rajwani for joining us for our latest episode of Behind the Whistle, Changing the Game. If you'd like to download the app REFSIX, it is free and can be downloaded on the App Store and the Google Play Store. From 7:45 on Thursday the 9th of September, Stockport referees will be at Edgeley Park for our second meeting of the season, Building Your Knowledge.